But try to ask Kevin about how it happened, right? But I believe I'm right about the agents just being like, hey, get it, man.
What's up, man? I'm Matt.
Matt, give it up for Matt! Matt. Sorry, let me ask, I have a question. Who's in here after me? Sorry, too many people answered. One person. Thank you. I was only wondering because I'm seeing it starting to fill up a lot. I was like, this can't all be for me. When I'm ending. Sorry, I asked you.
You're good. So clearly there's not much that you won't do. However, was at any point when Kevin was like, Jay, I need you to do this, that you were like, Kevin, what the hell is the matter with you? I'm not doing that.
Good question. Because I was going to answer this sort of earlier when the gentleman asked about the tuck. So when we were in Zack and Miri, and when I got to, I read the whole script, right? And when we got to the one scene in Zack and Miri, and I don't know if people haven't seen Zack and Miri, there's a scene where Seth Rogen's character is like pouring his heart out to his lady. She's sitting in there crying and stuff, and I'm in the bedroom. So in the script it says Lester comes walking out and he's butt naked, right? And he just walks out naked, walks past Seth, the character, and says, "What's up?" And I'm like, all right. And I just assumed, most movies, when they shoot a scene like that, like either someone's carrying a surfboard, right, or they walk by like some fucking plants and stuff, and you see that, there's a fucking table with fruit baskets and shit, and they just happen to be lined up, not on purpose, but it just happens to block it. So I assumed I was gonna be walking by, and maybe I walked by, and it was only from the head waist up, or if they got lower, it'd be me walking past the table. And I remember it was like probably the night before. I didn't even think about that scene really. I was just thinking, I always make sure, like when I know that I usually think about what's gonna be the next day. All right, I'm in scene, this scene. Oh my gosh, I have a lot of dialogue for these two scenes. This scene, there's not a lot of dialogue, so on set I'll remember those two lines, But this is like a monologue, so let me go through this and I'll try to memorize it that night and stuff. So I didn't even think about that scene until it got too close. And so I remember the night before, I go, Kev, man, it was maybe 2 days before even. I go, that scene's coming up right here. And I said, I hadn't asked you before, it's been a few weeks, what is the plan? Like, am I gonna come out and there's gonna be a table with a fucking watermelon on it, a big plant? Like, what's the gag? What's the funny gag? And he's like, you know what, I've been thinking about it. And I think you just come out and you're gonna be butt naked, wiener swinging and shit. I was like, no way, bro. He's like, yeah, dude, I'm serious. I was like, you're kidding, right? I'm like, for real though, what are we gonna use? I wanna know, is it gonna be funny or what? He's like, dude, no, I'm serious. There's a bunch of movies. I can't remember what movies came out. There's at least 2 movies that came out that year, and a couple dudes showed their wiener, and it sort of went over okay, right? Like, I guess it was like, no one was like, holy shit, the movie was great, but there was a offensive wiener flying around or anything. So Kevin's like, I think it'll work, man. I think it'll be funny and stuff. So I'm like, all right, man, I don't know. And then I was like, I don't know if I can do it. He's like, well, why not? And I was like, look, my niece, well, it's really my cousin, I have one of those nieces that are really my blood cousin, but her mom raised me, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, she brings her kids, and her kids are, at that age, was 9 and 7. Even though they probably shouldn't be seeing and hearing the other things, I ain't gonna tell her how to raise her kids. But it's like, if they want to hear cuss words and shit, that's fine if she lets them. But I was like, they're gonna see my wiener. Not to mention, my wife at the time was pretty new. We've just been together like 3 years, and her mother-in-law was my mother-in-law was coming. Her godmother, who I've gotten close with, like her family's coming, and a couple of her girlfriends. So I'm like, her girlfriends are gonna see my wiener. My mother-in-law's gonna see my wiener. I was like, man, I don't know if I can do this, bro. He's like, come on, dude, it'll be fine. And I was like, I don't know. I was like, well, can you do me this? So we did one take. All I asked him is, I said, let me do one take where I come out and I'm like scratching and covering it up, right? So I was like, I want to make sure we have that, because I don't want it to just be because you want to see my wiener, Kevin, right? and want to see if I'll do it. In my head, I felt like he was doing it just to be like, I just want to see if you'll do it. You know what I mean? And it's not going to work with it. And people are going to be like, oh God, why? I said, but if it works, like if it comes out and I'm like, oh shit, man, like perfect timing, it's funny, there's wieners and balls flying around, then fine, you know, we're good to go. So he let me do one scene with that. But again, I was very hesitant. Didn't want to do it. We talked about it. I remember calling my wife up and saying, well, what do you think? Are you okay with your friends seeing my wiener and how luscious and beautiful it is? Next time I look at it, they're all going to be staring at me and shit, you know? And she's like, none of my friends are going to go, well, see your fucking movie. I was like, fair enough, fair enough. So it was. I really was hesitant. And I did do a scene where I covered it. And then we did a scene where I'm just walking and chilling, right? But when we watched the edited pieces together, it was perfect because it is where it's a like serious moment where Seth Rogen's like, man, I'm sorry, I want you back, baby. And he's pouring his heart out, pouring her heart out, and it's a serious moment. And then I come walking by like, what's up, bro? And my wiener's just flying around a little bit and shit. But my favorite part is what I came up with in that scene is after I walk by and I do that, I go to the refrigerator. And I think he asks her, like, is he naked? And, you know, is Lester naked or whatever? And she's like, I don't know, he slept over. And he looks over at me in the fridge, and I'm drinking orange juice. So Kevin just told me to drink the orange juice, and that's it, right? And then the camera, like, goes from Seth over to me, and it's supposed to be my butt, and that's it, right? So while he's like, all right, camera, like, he would be like, there's cameras on you now. So as he did that on purpose, I dropped the orange juice can. And I went, oops, and I picked it up, right? And you could see the silhouette of my ball bag just hanging, right? And I hear Kevin start cracking up and shit. And he goes, cut, and he has to cut because he laughed on the scene. But also because he's like, yo, he tells the grips, he's like, is there a DP too? He's like, is there any way you could put like a light in there? Because we could sort of see the shadow of the silhouette, but not enough. It's almost too dark. He's like, put a light in there so the light shines through and we could just see a nice silhouette of Jay's ball bag and shit, right? And so he went in, set up a light and shit, and we did it again, and this time it was like perfect. I dropped the cat, and you could just see it and stuff. So I got to throw in, and you know what? That answers my ad-lib. Are you still here? My best ad-lib ever was when I dropped the cap and showed my ball bag. Let's go. Thank you, thank you.